20 years ago, in a room you don't fully remember, with a nightlight buzzing somewhere near the door, a woman sat on the edge of a bed that was too small for her to be sitting on comfortably, and she held a hand that was too small to be yours now, and she said words she barely understood herself, words her own mother used to say. Words passed down through a line of women who were tired and scared and out of options, so they did the only thing left available to them. They prayed. She didn't know what she was activating. She wasn't trying to cast anything, summon anything, bind anything. She was just a mother, in the dark, doing the one thing that still worked when everything else had failed. And what she spoke over you that night, half formed, half remembered, whispered more than said, wasn't just comfort for a child who couldn't sleep. It was a filing, a submission, a request entered into a system so old it predates every religion that ever tried to name it. And that request has just been approved. 20 years later, tonight maybe, this week certainly, something that has been quietly, invisibly working in your favor since before you could tie your own shoes just crossed a threshold. And the things that have been feeding off you, watching you, sitting in the corners of rooms you occupy, they felt it before you did. Let's talk about what a prayer actually is, because most people get this completely wrong. A prayer is not a wish. A wish evaporates the moment you stop believing in it. A prayer, a real one, spoken by someone desperate enough to mean every syllable, is closer to a contract. It has terms, it has duration. It has a kind of legal weight in realms that operate on rules older than the concept of law itself. And contracts like that, the ones spoken over children by mothers who had nothing left but faith, they don't expire when the mother stops thinking about them. They mature, slowly, on a timeline that has nothing to do with human patience. 20 years is not a random number. Ask anyone who studies these things. The old ones, the ones who don't post about it anywhere, and they'll tell you certain intercessory prayers, the deep ones, the ones soaked in real desperation, carry a maturation cycle. 2 decades is one of the most common thresholds, long enough for a life to form completely around the protection without ever noticing it was there, long enough for the person being covered to walk through things that should have destroyed them and just assume they got lucky. You didn't get lucky. Let's just say that plainly right now before we go any further. Every near miss, every situation that should have gone worse than it did, every room you walked out of that you probably shouldn't have walked out of, that wasn't chance, that was a hedge. Something planted around you 2 decades ago that has been quietly doing its job the entire time, without applause, without your knowledge, without asking for anything in return. Now let's look at the last few weeks specifically, because this is where the maturing contract stopped being theoretical and started leaving actual marks on your ordinary life, small enough that you probably explained each one away individually, without noticing they were building towards something. 3 weeks ago, roughly, a relationship that had been quietly draining you for years, the kind where you always left feeling slightly smaller than when you arrived, without ever being able to name exactly why, just ended, not through a fight, not through some dramatic confrontation. It just dissolved, almost politely, like both sides had simultaneously run out of whatever fuel was keeping it alive. You probably felt relief and confusion in equal measure. You called it growing apart. It wasn't growing apart. It was a channel closing. Somewhere around the same time, maybe a few days before or after, the dreams started. Not nightmares exactly. Nothing you could point to and say that specifically terrified me, but dense. Heavy. The kind of dream you wake up from feeling like you did physical labor overnight, muscles slightly sore, mind slightly foggy, even though you slept a completely normal number of hours. Some nights you half remembered doors, rooms you were walking through, checking, closing behind you one by one. Your body doesn't usually manufacture that specific sensation for no reason. And then the smaller things. A coworker who used to make your skin crawl in some low, unnamed way suddenly transferred departments with no warning. An old family member who always seemed to bring a subtle chill into every room they entered stopped calling, stopped texting, seemed to simply lose interest in maintaining contact after years of persistence. None of these things, taken individually, mean anything. Taken together, over the span of a few weeks, they trace the exact outline of something large being dismantled around you piece by piece, starting with its outermost and least protected attachments first. Here's where it gets stranger, and I need you to stay with me, because this is the part that's actually happening right now, not 20 years ago. There is a category of presence, and I'm being intentionally careful with language here because the specific names matter less than what they do, that attaches itself to people the way mold attaches to damp wood. Not always through anything dramatic, sometimes through generational weight. A pattern of struggle repeating itself down a bloodline until it starts to look less like coincidence and more like an assignment. Addiction that skips a generation and then returns. Doors that close for no discernible reason, right when things start to go well. A heaviness in certain rooms of certain family homes that everyone feels and nobody names out loud. These presences are patient. They don't need to announce themselves. They just need proximity and time and an opening and a child, unprotected, unclaimed by anything stronger, is exactly the kind of opening they're built to find. But you weren't unclaimed. Somebody claimed you before anything else got the chance. And for 20 years, that claim has been quietly holding a line those presences couldn't cross, even though most of them didn't fully understand why. They just knew certain doors stayed shut around you. They knew certain rooms felt wrong to linger in when you were present. They knew, on some instinctual level below language, that something older and stronger than their patience had already staked a claim on this particular life. And staking a claim after someone else already has, in these realms, is not simply difficult, it's forbidden. There's a hierarchy to this, a protocol, and nobody wants to be the one who violates it. So they waited. 20 years of waiting, feeding on the margins where they could, testing the edges without ever pushing through, because pushing through wasn't permitted yet. The contract had terms, and the terms said, not yet, until now. Something shifted. Maybe it was a moment of real surrender you had recently. A night you finally stopped fighting something you'd been fighting for years and just let it break you open instead of breaking you down. Maybe it was a decision you made that finally aligned with something you were always meant to become, and that alignment is exactly the kind of trigger that closes out a contract early. Maybe it really is simply the calendar, the 20 years finally completing themselves on schedule, the way a debt finally clears after the last payment lands. Whatever the exact mechanism, the terms have been met. The protection isn't just holding anymore. It's expanding, and expansion means eviction. Picture it like this, because I think you need the image to really feel the weight of what's happening. Somewhere, in whatever thin, cold, in-between space these presences occupy when they're not actively attached to something, there is a kind of scattering happening right now, not a battle. Battles imply the outcome is uncertain. This is closer to a raid. One so overwhelming that resistance isn't even attempted. Whatever has been sitting in the corners of your life, feeding quietly on the margins for 2 decades.
I'm a man of my word.
is being forced out of a territory it no longer has any legal standing to occupy. Imagine the lowest ranking of them first, the small opportunistic things that never had real standing to begin with, the ones that fed on stray moments of doubt or a bad mood left unattended too long. Those are already gone, evicted so quickly and so early in this process that they barely register as a memory now, the way you don't remember every mosquito you've ever swatted. Then the mid-level ones, the ones that had actually managed to attach themselves to specific relationships, specific habits, specific rooms in your life where they'd made themselves comfortable over years. Those are the ones causing the disruption you might actually be able to feel right now. The restlessness, the sense of something shifting under the surface of ordinary days. And then, above all of them, whatever sat at the actual root of this, whatever originally attached itself to your bloodline generations before you were even a consideration, that one is the last to move, because it has the most invested and the least willingness to accept that its lease has finally, permanently ended. They're relocating. That's the only accurate word for it. Not destroyed. That's not how this works, and I won't pretend it is. Relocating. Moving to territory that isn't covered. Territory that doesn't have a mother's prayer standing over it. Territory with an opening. You might already be feeling the edges of this without knowing what it is. That sense lately of certain people suddenly being unable to hold your gaze the way they used to. Certain relationships that carried a low, chronic drain on you for years abruptly losing their grip. Not because you did anything, but because whatever was using that relationship as a feeding channel just lost its lease. Sleep that's been strange, vivid, sometimes unsettling in ways that don't match anything happening in your actual waking life. That's not random either. Evictions are rarely quiet on the inside, even when they're completely invisible on the outside. Let me tell you about the ones who notice these things for a living, because there are people who spend their whole lives paying attention to exactly this kind of shift, and I think you deserve to know what they're seeing right now, even secondhand. There's a woman, older, the kind of older that comes with a stillness most people lose by 30, who has spent decades doing what she calls simply watching the room, not performing anything, not selling anything, just sitting in gatherings, in churches, in family kitchens, and noticing what most people are too busy to notice. The weight certain people carry into a space, the relief certain people bring into a space without saying a word. She described recently to someone who then described it to someone else, a sensation she hadn't felt in years, a clearing, like walking into a house the day after a fever finally breaks, when the air itself seems to remember how to move again. She didn't know your name. She didn't need to. She just said something is being released right now, on a scale she hasn't witnessed in a long time, and whoever it's centered on has no idea the size of what just happened around them. That's you. Whether you feel qualified for that sentence or not, that's you. There's another account, unconnected to the first, that I think is worth mentioning, because it wasn't sought out, it just surfaced. A man who works with people in recovery, the kind of work that puts him in rooms with folks at their absolute lowest, folks who have every reason to be closed off to anything resembling hope, mentioned to a colleague recently that something in the general atmosphere of his work had felt different lately. Lighter was the word he used, though he admitted it sounded strange coming from someone who spends his days around genuine despair. He couldn't point to a policy change or a new program or anything procedural, just a shift, like pressure easing out of a system that had been holding tension for a long time without anyone quite noticing the tension was there. He wasn't talking about you specifically. He'd never heard of you. But whatever he was describing, and whatever that older woman described in her own words, days apart, in different cities, with no connection between them whatsoever. They were both circling the same thing from different angles. Something large finishing its work, something long held finally letting go. Here's the part that might sting a little, so I want to say it gently. You probably spent years wondering why certain things felt so much harder for you than they seemed to for everyone else. Why you had to fight for stability that other people seemed to inherit without effort. Why peace always felt slightly out of reach, like a room you could see through a window but never quite find the door to. That wasn't a personal failure. That was the low hum of an unresolved spiritual tug-of-war happening just beneath the surface of your ordinary life. A war you were mostly unaware you were even a party to, being fought on your behalf by something you never thanked because you didn't know it existed. That war is ending, not beginning, ending in your favor. And the exhaustion you've been carrying, the sense of always swimming upstream, even when nothing in your actual circumstances explained why. That was the cost of a covering, doing its job under pressure for 2 decades straight, without a single day off. I want to be honest about something else too, because this format usually doesn't say the quiet part, and I think it matters. This isn't really about demons in the cartoonish sense, red skin and horns and theatrics. Strip away the imagery, and what we're actually talking about is patterns, generational weight, cycles of harm that repeat themselves through families. Like a signal passed down a chain until someone finally refuses to pass it further. Whatever language you want to use for that, spiritual or psychological or somewhere in between, the mechanism is the same. Something was trying to repeat itself through you. And a mother, 20 years ago, in a dark room, with nothing but desperation and love, made a decision that this particular chain would end somewhere. And it's ending now, with you. Whether the forces involved are literal or symbolic almost doesn't matter, because the outcome is identical either way. The weight lifts, the pattern breaks, the thing that was supposed to keep repeating stops. Think about your family for a second. Really think. Is there a shape to the difficulty that runs through it? A specific kind of self-sabotage that shows up generation after generation, right as things start to go well. A specific silence around certain topics that everyone respects without ever agreeing to respect it. A specific age where things tend to fall apart for the people in your bloodline, over and over, almost too precisely to be coincidence. If you can name it, even loosely, you're not imagining a pattern, you're recognizing an assignment. Maybe it's an uncle who had everything lined up, a good job, a steady partner, a life within reach, and watched it all quietly unravel the same year, almost the same month, that it did for his father before him. Maybe it's a grandmother who never spoke about her own childhood, not once, not to anyone, and whose silence somehow became a kind of inheritance itself, passed down not as story, but as absence, a shape cut out of the family's memory that everyone learned to walk around without ever asking why the shape was there. Maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's just a number, an age where, generation after generation, something always seems to happen. A marriage ends, a job collapses, a health scare arrives right on schedule, like clockwork, like something is checking a calendar none of you can see. Assignments like that only end one way. Someone eventually becomes too covered, too protected, too far outside the reach of the pattern for it to complete itself through them anymore. That someone, based on everything converging right now, on the timeline, on the dreams, on the doors quietly closing around you these past few weeks, might finally be you. You don't have to do anything with this information. That's the strange mercy of how this particular kind of protection works. It was never asking for your participation. It never needed you to perform faith correctly, or say the right words at the right times, or understand any of the mechanics behind it. It just needed one person, 20 years ago, to mean it completely for one moment, and mean it enough that the meaning outlasted her own memory of saying it. She might not even remember the exact words anymore. 20 years is a long time, and memory softens things, blurs the specifics while keeping the shape. But she doesn't need to remember. The words did their work, independent of her memory, the way a seed doesn't need the planter to remember planting it in order to eventually break through the soil. So here's where you actually are tonight. Not haunted, not cursed, not unlucky, covered. So thoroughly covered that the things which spent 2 decades circling the edges of that covering, waiting for a gap that was never going to appear, are finally being forced to accept that the gap was never coming. They're leaving. Not because you fought them. You may not have even known there was a fight happening. They're leaving because the terms of an old, quiet, completely unglamorous contract spoken by someone tired and scared and out of options in a room with a buzzing nightlight have finally, fully come due. You don't need to light a candle tonight or say a special word or perform any kind of ritual to seal this. That part was never yours to do. It was hers 20 years ago, and it was finished the moment she meant it. All that's left now is the part that was always going to be the easiest part, even though it might not feel easy yet. Living in it, letting the rooms that used to feel heavy start to feel light without questioning why. Letting relationships that drained you stay, ended without chasing the feeling of them. Letting sleep come easier, a little at a time, without needing to understand the mechanics of why. Sleep well tonight, really. Whatever's been sitting heavy in the corners is already halfway out the door, looking for somewhere less covered to go, and somewhere without knowing exactly why, without remembering the specific words she used. A woman who loves you is about to feel unexpectedly, inexplicably lighter, and she won't be able to tell you why either. But you'll know, even if you can't explain it to anyone else, some quiet part of you will know exactly why.